And I know I would just complain, like, why aren't we listening to Eminem? Like, why are we listening to this Boggy Mountain
Were your parents listening to Eminem with you as well?
No, because my like other friends, like I'm a football guy at this point in my life.
Round two.
Yeah, round two. I guess we can start with that. Thank you so much for being willing to do this a second time.
Oh, yeah.
I'll just say a caveat. We tried this before at a park, and my audio didn't work. So Jeremy's kind enough to let me come back another day. And
you know, it was still time really well spent hanging out with you that morning.
No, we both left there smiling, and it was so. I feel like we connected on a deeper level, so I appreciate that.
It's always great talking to you. So I'm happy to be here.
Thank you so much. I'll just speak about like how we got to know each other first, and then we can let this conversation blossom into whatever it needs to become. So I just want to start by saying thank you so much for your time today and for being so kind to me. When I first touched down here in Winter Park, I showed up to the Winter Park Library not really knowing anyone, and you were one of the first few friends that I made here. So I just want to say thank you for being so hospitable, for welcoming me in, and for inviting me to the open mic nights here.
Thank you for all of the kindness you've given in return. Thank you for having me right now.
Yeah.
And thank you for coming to all these music events we do at the library. It's like really exciting to me to have, you know, like fresh new faces and great talent like you sharing. It's like, it's really awesome and exciting. I'm really glad I get to integrate, you know, that music stuff and that community building through music stuff into my work life. Like, that's a real great thing for me.
How long have you been doing the open mic nights here?
The open mic nights here at the library, you know, I've been in this role for maybe 3 years at the library of like being a librarian and having some control over some things that we do. So I first tried it out maybe, I want to say 2.5 years ago would be a rough guess. And yeah, nobody came at first. It was like, you know,
you were just making noise in a library and people were wondering why.
I wasn't either. No, I'm really shy if like ice hasn't been broken. I wasn't going to like go up there and just start playing, you know, and it's also like my workplace and stuff, you know. But, you know, I'd have really small turnouts. And then I'd say over the past year, a lot of, you know, the folk music community that gathers at the library has started turning up. And it's just so wonderful to have everyone. And that's why it's so exciting that like I have you and your new friends, you know, coming and joining this. It's like, it's really awesome.
I've been trying to be a salesman for it because of how much joy it's brought into my life. And I want to share that with people. And it's just cool to see how you lead it too. I feel like you have a very interesting leadership style, and that is humbleness, humility. And I think you do a really good job of leading this open mic night.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Because, I mean, you kick it off. You break the ice. You perform with Rain. And you always do an incredible rendition either of your own songs or the Beatles, which we can talk about more later. And it helps me feel a little more at home when it's time for me to perform. And I can see it in everyone else's faces, too. It seems like it seems to calm everyone down. So you do a great job.
Thank you so much, Matthew.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
So what do you like to play most when you're in front of people?
Yeah, well, I play a lot around town with some different bands and such. So, you know, I'm mostly a bass player, actually, which I think you haven't seen at the library.
Not much,
you know, it's usually one of my favorite things to do, which is me and my partner, Rain, you know, making music together. And I've never had a better, you know, vocal harmony singer to sing with than Rain. Like,
she does a great job.
Yeah, and so and yeah, we came together through like a shared love of the Beatles, and then, you know, teaching Rain some of my original tunes, and so we like to gig on those. But yeah, no, I always say my favorite thing to play is like whatever band I've last played with.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, there are a few groups. I have a Grateful Dead cover band, and more of like a hard jam and blues group called Shreddy King I play with. Yeah, the Grateful Spread is the
Grateful Spread.
We play at least once a month up the road.
It's fantastic.
Rock Pit Brewing. The Rusty Strings is like more of a folky, bluegrassy, like old school hippie country. And then my own music we do under the name The King Tides. So whatever I played last is my favorite. You know.
Which of those do you devote the most practice to?
Well, at this point, whichever one has the most gigs coming up, all of these groups, for a while, like a few years ago, And it's funny. It's a good thing I was single at the time. It's like it was 4 nights a week I had practice with a different band, and now we don't do that at all. Now we just get together to dust off the cobwebs before a gig, figure out what we're playing. So it's pretty equal, I'd say, and we don't put in all of that. We put in so much of the hard work that now it's like
second nature.
Yeah. It's just playing songs I love with my friends. And,
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's very cool. So with your gigs coming up, which of those are on the horizon next? Like what are some of those gigs you like to promote or talk about a little bit more?
Yeah, so this group I play with, the Rusty Strings, we're doing a tribute to Jerry Garcia.
That's great.
At 1010 Brewing in Orlando on August 9th. It's part of, I always joke, it's like the most important time of the Grateful Dead liturgical calendar is Jerry Garcia. I forget the exact dates, but his birth date and death date were the same week, the first week of August.
So peculiar.
Yeah, so we're playing a tribute to him in that space. And with the Rusty Strings, there are a couple of my friends are older, like Deadheads who used to follow them in the 80s and stuff. So it's just been really great, to have those friends. And I've learned so much great music and so much about playing music from them. So I'm excited for that gig.
That's special.
And a lot of it's Grateful Dead related because every month at Rock Pit Brewing, the Grateful Spread plays. So I'll have that later in August, I think on like the 23rd.
Very nice.
Yeah.
You've been in the studio upstairs recording too.
Yeah.
Could you talk a little bit more about an album that's coming out for you?
Yeah, so under the name The King Tides, this is going to be the 3rd EP that we've put out. So it's kind of my vehicle for like songs that I write.
Gotcha.
So me and my buddy Chris, who's a super great guitar player and like instrumentalist, it's kind of been our collaboration, like producing the songs together. So yeah, we... over the past few years, we put out 2 short albums, and this is going to be our 3rd.
Nice.
So, yeah.
What are you feeling right now with this work coming out on the way?
Yeah. Well, I have this thing where, like, I feel like the songs kind of are, like, my life work, you know? So it's just, like, I'm already, like, thinking about the next one after that.
That's cool.
And it's so, like, it's such a just passion project we do for ourselves.
That's great.
But, yeah, I'm glad just to kind of get, like 4 more songs from the stockpile of songs that I have just kind of out there and can work on recording the next ones. It's like they're all songs I wrote a long time ago.
Yeah.
I think 3 of them I wrote in 2017.
That's so
and
interesting.
And 1 of them in 2019. And it's like I'm just catching up.
So why didn't you perform or record them before, and why is now the time? What changed internally for you?
Me and Chris taking time to figure out like how to record music was a big part. I feel like we spent a lot of like 2020 working on our first EP, and by that point there was all old songs of mine, but yeah, it's just I don't know. Maybe we're kind of perfectionists, and there's so much. I totally
get that. Yeah.
We take our time and we busy ourselves with other projects between work here at the library and playing, other people's music and all these gigs. It's just, that's why it's like a passion I have and something I really have this drive to release music. But at the same time, want to kind of say yes to everything and it goes on back burner.
I totally understand that. So let's shift gears a little bit. We are in a library, a library that has a recording studio and an awesome stage over there for open mic nights. Could you talk about being a librarian and what that means to you as your profession?
Yeah, it's a job that I'm really fortunate to have. Like as someone who loves libraries and just libraries mean a lot to me.
I feel so safe in here. It's such a wonderful place.
Yeah, it's just it's nice to be part of an institution I believe in. Just, this library, Winter Park Library, or libraries in general. And I just feel so fortunate to have that. I spent a lot of years when I was younger, like I took school and academics very seriously. I got a graduate degree actually in like religious studies. And I just, was kind of like thinking like, had a lot of ideas about what I wanted to do, a lot of ambitions that were academic, ambitions that were musical and whatnot. And just at this point, I feel like makes a lot of sense that like I've ended up here. I've ended up like working in a library, and those are the places where I always sat to read and get my work done and just have like my quiet thought
Yeah.
time and writing time, which is always very important to me. So
That's
it
great.
just kind of unfolded in a way that was not at all for me by like design, but like, you know, there was a job opening at the library as I was exiting being a school teacher, you know, and it just kind of fell into place for me. And yeah, there are no places I'd rather be than libraries, you know.
That's special. So compare and contrast teaching to librarian, and like, what are some of the things you like more about this job now?
Yeah, well, as a teacher, you know, it was like I had no life. And I had this extreme desire to have a life because, you know, I am a musician and
Multi-talented person.
Yeah, well, thank you.
Yeah.
I mean, just like you. And this, though, I have such work-life balance.
That's so
and
good
it's
to hear.
really nice. As a teacher, I didn't have that at all. And, you know, every day is a performance. And it wasn't a performance I was ever totally comfortable in my skin with. You know, so every day brought a lot of anxiety and stress in a way that, yeah, I'm really glad to just not have now. And
Sorry to cut you. I could imagine myself in that position, like having a low social battery after a day like that, having to, you mentioned perform every day. It sounds exhausting.
But what would I do? I would, you know, I'd be there for 10 hours at school every day, and then I'd go home, make a little dinner, and then go to the Winter Park Library.
Yeah, and recharge.
Well, get my work done for the next day, get the grading done, get more or less. I was just always trying to stay afloat.
Yeah.
I always, as a teacher, always jumped from like course to course. So I was never in a position where like for, you know, years teaching the same thing. And so I was always kind of reinventing the wheel for myself.
Gotcha.
I never really like took the easy way out.
Yeah.
I was just, you know, having an inclination when it comes to certain things to work hard. There are other things in my life I'm lazy about.
Gotcha.
There's certain ways in which I'm just like,
That's cool. You challenged yourself in that way, and then you were able to springboard from that to this, which is an awesome transition.
And what can I say? But I'm lucky for it, you know.
Yeah. Well,
Just
that's
like for
wonderful.
a lot of things, yeah.
So, what you got the most excited to talk about last time was the Beatles.
Right, because we sat down for our interview, and that just kind of came up, right?
It was wonderful to watch you talk about that. I was raised on Abbey Road.
Okay,
My mom would primarily drive me to school, but when she was out of town or sick or something else, my dad would take me. And he would play Abbey Road. He'd play Bob Dylan. He'd play Bluegrass, Foggy Mountain Breakdown, which you had on your Instagram story.
Right.
So he had a very eclectic taste that transferred to me. But of all of those, I want to talk about the Beatles. Where does your mind go to first when I mention the Beatles?
Well, where does my mind go to first? Mentioning Abbey Road, just the thought that it's like their classic rock album. One of my best friends, my friend Joey, I just remember like one of our first conversation we ever had. We're like lifelong friends. We're obsessed with the Beatles and the Grateful Dead and music in all sorts of ways. And I just remember we had this discussion like, are the Beatles a classic rock band? And for some reason we both thought like, no, they're not. And I guess in retrospect, it's just they're not of that era. The classic rock era is really like the 70s, but there's something about the note they ended on of like moving into the classic rock album with Abbey Road. It's a very particular sound for them, that album. You know?
Then Paul goes into Wings after that, right? And that's much more of a rock sound to it.
It depends. I mean, Paul McCartney is always going to have a real spectrum, a lot of variety. He's going to make a lot of very soft, you know, gentle.
Like Ram.
Like certain songs on Ram, but there's certain songs on Ram where he's screaming his head off too, you know. And
I was thinking of the specific song Ram.
Oh, Ram On.
Ram On, that's
with
what I
the
meant.
ukulele.
Dun, dun.
Yeah, what a sweet song.
I love that.
I love that song. That song is so cool. But on
So
the other
beautiful.
hand, you have other songs of Paul's that are like decidedly less cool, like in more of like a soft rock slop kind of way, like My Love, or I don't know what you will of like silly love songs. There's just, he's always had such a desire to be a chameleon and such a talent at being a chameleon.
He's done a great job.
There's stuff for everyone to love and stuff for a lot of people to hate. Too, you know, but you can never deny that it's not so well crafted and produced and performed. And I don't know, that kind of leads to another thing about the Beatles, which is the dichotomy of Paul and John, you know. And I think about how Paul always has essentially been the same kind of artist who will just kind of search for inspiration anywhere for songs, you know, everyday life, the same kind of love song themes, whereas John just really unique and interesting to me the way through his songwriting you see him so profoundly change with the different eras.
Yeah.
It's like eras is a vogue thing now, I guess, with like Taylor Swift.
I know.
So eras marketing, but you know, who has that more than John Lennon?
Yeah.
As far as the bubblegum pop of Beatlemania, to, you know, the John Lennon who ate acid every day for a year and turned those experiences into the most out there, bizarre and beautiful art. And then kind of came back to earth in this really profoundly like introspective way, from the White Album through like the Plastic Ono Band album and Imagine, and even, you know, the last album, Double Fantasy, that he made with Yoko. It's almost like a concept album about like domestic life and marriage, and there's something
so
always so conceptual about John Lennon's work as a whole in a particular era, you know. And you know, Paul, the craftsman and the, you know, multi-instrumentalist, practically virtuoso, and John, the one who everyone has a Beatle they identify with.
Yeah.
Mine is definitely John, you know. But it's good, like in the King Tides project with my buddy Chris, to have the friend who is so much, just so proficient in everything, and you gotta have your Paul, you know. So
I completely agree with that. So when you think about the Beatles, you're clearly inspired.
Yeah.
Was there a point in your childhood where you found them, or was it just always there? Can you think back to when you first discovered the Beatles?
Yeah, my mom.
Gotcha.
You know, and with my family, with my mom and dad and my older brother, you know, we Abbey Road was part of that like road trip CD collection.
That's funny.
It was like Abbey Road, Bob Marley's Legend, Tom Petty's Greatest Hits, and some Bruce Springsteen that I hated at the time as a little kid, that now is like my favorite music ever. You know, like really early Bruce Springsteen.
That's really cool.
But yeah, definitely through my mom, the Beatles and Dylan, who were two of the things I love more than anything.
That's funny. You mentioning hating that music at the time, and I know I would just complain, like, why aren't we listening to Eminem? Like, why are we listening to this Foggy Mountain
Break? Were your parents listening to Eminem with you as well?
No, because my like other friends, like I'm a football guy at this point in my life, and they're all listening to Eminem or different things like that, and at the time I could have been frustrated, like you're talking about with the Bruce Springsteen thing, but they all grew on me.
It's interesting, you know, an artist I don't think about a fraction as much as Bruce Springsteen and Bob Dylan and the Beatles, because like those are my, you know, that's my stuff. But with Eminem, it's like at the time you're a kid or whatever, he's mega popular. It just kind of represents what's popular in the moment, or there's a lot of angst and angry irreverence that you may or may not jive with. But like looking back older, I'm just looking at like the extreme amount of skill and talent and staggering like degree of just like, I don't know, whatever you call it, proficiency and artistry.
With Eminem?
Yeah, to rap like Eminem. Yeah. It's just insane.
I listened to Recovery recently, and I'm blown away. Because he goes all over the place on that album, and it sounds good.
Yeah, I don't even, I mean, I don't know the album, but like, I know the title.
It's one of his...
But it's just, for me, it's like getting older, a lot of it is like, and playing and making music more, recording music, you know, playing it out a lot. It's just like, yeah, the way I thought about a lot of things when I was younger, or maybe how non-musicians think about music, is the more you invest yourself, the more stuff you notice details, and you're just blown away by stuff maybe you didn't even notice in the past.
That's pretty sweet. Could you give an example of anything specific?
Everything I listen to. Everything I love.
You're just picking different pieces of it and relating with it more because you might know how to do it, or you realize how hard it was to do something.
I was talking to some friends, you know, in my big surprise in my Grateful Dead cover band, we're all big fans of Phish. Yeah. And even though I could go on forever about how they're not actually very similar bands, there's a similar culture around them. But there are tons of things that separate them, and, you know, the Dead wrote the great songs, and Phish, have some silly songs that are great excuses for great jams. But, you know, I've always loved Phish, but I never even, like, noticed what a monstrously great, like, bass player Mike Gordon is. And I've been playing bass since I was a teenager, you know, and it's just that kind of stuff. It's like, you know, as you get more into the details of music, even stuff that you love and you're really familiar with on a certain level, you realize there's so much more to be familiar with about.
Who else have you grown a massive amount of respect for in the music industry?
Who I haven't already named? Or?
Yeah, I mean, does anyone else come to mind on that train of thought of as you've realized like how really talented they are? Does anyone else come to mind?
Yeah, as far as I mean, there's so many people I can name.
Yeah.
I was talking to my buddy last night about talking about Bob Dylan, as one does.
Yeah.
And and we were talking just about like, you know, you think all the things, you know, about his stature as a songwriter,
Yeah.
you know, the Nobel Prize and all that. But one of the most staggering things I've been realizing is listening to like some real deep cut live Bob Dylan stuff, and the way he will completely rewrite a familiar song.
That's sweet.
Like a song with many verses, like Tangled Up in Blue or something, or he'll have all these live recordings where every line he's rewritten to fit the meter and the general story of the song, but you know, the imagery in those songs is already so rich and evocative, and he's coming up with something equally evocative just to do for, you know,
like freestyling it.
I'm sure he's rewriting.
That's
and
so
committing
interesting.
a memory,
Yeah.
maybe. I mean, that's one of the great mysteries of Dylan too. Like on a lot of his great albums, what stuff maybe was freestyled? You know, how does he work as an improviser versus a composer? I don't expect to ever know. I always want to be the interviewer for these people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you seen that movie about Dylan it's played by like 5 different actors?
Oh, I'm not there. I'm
It's
obsessed
so
with that movie.
good.
Yeah. We bet Rain is obsessed with Timothy Chalamet and with the new movie about Dylan, and it's great.
It's fantastic.
Shortly before A Complete Unknown, that movie came out, I made us watch
It's awesome.
the one you're talking about, I'm Not There. What a great concept.
It was so cool. And they even had a girl to play
Kate
him.
Blanchett plays
Yeah.
like the Dylan, mid-60s Dylan, who I always say that Dylan is like the most like punk rock artist of the 60s.
I'm imagining that party scene where
Yeah.
she's just so rude and
Yeah, and in the sense of just going on stage and like playing these giant stadiums and just like playing these like whiny songs and being booed, you know, it's just like
it's awesome.
yeah.
It's such a good movie.
Yeah, the way in which, you know, taking the many facets of Dylan from, you know, the quote unquote protest singer to the evangelical born again Christian, you know, and you know, they have a little you know, black kid who calls himself Woody Guthrie.
I know.
That's a Bob Dylan, you know, and yeah, just what a great idea to portray Dylan in film.
Yeah. I thought it was very unique. So I feel like we're at a pretty natural closing here. I would just like to take a moment and ask you to speak from the heart and talk about maybe covering any of the things you talked about today, just from the lens of inspiring people that might be listening. You've been a librarian, you've been a teacher, you're still a musician, you're a lot of different things. Could you speak from the heart and talk about courage for maybe someone who might consider any of those paths?
Yeah, those particular paths. Or I mean, what comes to mind first is just kind of a universal sense of maybe don't be afraid for where your life is going to go.
Yeah.
You know, it's important to have goals and effort and dreams and such, but you know, do trust that just because perhaps you're young and really uncertain and scared of the future, don't doubt that it's not going to fall into place to be something that feels right.
Yeah.
Good, you know.
That's really special.
Yeah.
That's very nice. Well, I appreciate your time today. Is there anything I've left out from this interview that you'd like to say or share with any listeners?
I don't know. Thanks for covering all the bases.
Yeah,
you know?
I appreciate it.
It's really nice that we got to have a really fun hangout session.
I agree.
We thought we were recording like two weeks ago.
That was still so worth it.
And and it totally was. And now, no, thank you for the way you've brought this together. And I've really enjoyed watching the videos on your channel. And it's fun to see some friends on it who are from the library and are
That's the best part, is it's just connecting the dots. Like, oh, I know that person.
Yeah. And I'm
fun.
excited for all the stuff you're doing, Matthew.
Thank you, man.
You've got an album coming out I can't wait to hear. And
it'll be a really special time.
Yeah, I'm excited to be part of this thing as it's growing.
Yeah.
So,
Thank you for inspiring me. Yeah. I appreciate you inspiring me, man.
Thank
You've
you
done a
for
lot,
inspiring me.